The Sony A7R II starts shipping today from B&H, and that's freaking awesome because this camera is awesome. I haven't talked about it yet, but I love what this camera looks like on paper. I've torn Canon apart in the past in some other videos about kind of their lackluster customer service in my mind with some of the products they're releasing. I don't quite get what Canon is thinking and who they're targeting. I know they're going after the higher end people with the bigger budgets and the more money to spend, but in my mind, it's kind of a waste. Sony is doing the smart stuff. They're going after pretty much everybody by saying, hey, we know people want to save money. Who doesn't, right? Like, hey, let's all save money, but let's make something awesome that everyone can use. And I really like the looks of the A7R II. Granted, haven't used it, haven't touched it, so take that all with a huge grain of salt. This is not coming from any hands-on impressions or anything like that, but on paper, this camera looks fantastic. And this is the R version of the A7. So the A7R is kind of their Sony's resolution focused camera. So higher resolution is kind of what they're going for this model. And this is the Mark II. So offers a greater resolution over the original A7R. The A7R II, you're getting 42 megapixel sensor. So for photos, you get 42 megapixels, which according to some people, is even better than the 50 or so megapixels on the 5DS from Canon, but that's neither here nor there. I'm kind of at the point where once you get past 30 megapixels, like you're just it's an arms race to nothing. You know, okay, 42 megapixels, 50 megapixels, 60 megapixels. If you need it, you know why you need it, but most of us are probably content with even like 28 megapixels because at the end of the day, what are you going to use that for? And I'm sure in the comics, everyone's going to be like, oh, yeah, I would use it for this and this and this. And sure, yeah, great, use it for that. But the resolution for me isn't the main thing that I'm attracted to. What I am attracted to is this is the first, to my knowledge, I think this is the first, Sony full-frame mirrorless camera that has internal 4K. Now, the Sony A7S allowed you to output 4K over the HDMI, but you had to record with an Atomos Shogun or Odyssey 7Q or some external recorder to actually get the 4K. The A7S only did 1080 internally. The A7R II, this new one, actually does internal 4K, and that is a big freaking deal because that's one of the main reasons I bought a GH4 over the A7S was I want that internal 4K. I don't want to have to buy an additional recorder, something else to go wrong, some other purchase, some other cost to deal with. I want it right in the camera, and I'm really glad to see that Sony has added that. They've also got S-Log 2 on this A7R II, so you can shoot with a flatter picture profile. We'll see if the codec is capable of doing that. I've made some videos in the past talking about log and how you probably might not want to shoot with a log picture profile if you are shooting with a DSLR type camera, just because usually the codec isn't up to that kind of grading in post-production, but we'll see. Again, haven't used the A7R II, so can't speak to it. It's nice that it's a feature because you can always shoot in some other picture profile. So, hey, include it. Why not? I wish Panasonic would get their act together and release Vlog for the GH4 finally, so we could at least play with that. But that's neither here nor there. The other great thing about the A7R II is that it's got 5-axis internal stabilization. So you don't have to worry about if the lens has stabilization or what lens you got putting on it. Because it's a mirrorless camera and it's Sony E-mount, you can put almost any lens on this thing. And if this internal stabilization is any good, that is a huge selling feature. It's one of the things I don't like about what Panasonic is doing. All their stabilization is on the lens. And that's not true. Some of their models have internal stabilization, but the GH series has traditionally not had internal stabilization at the sensor, which is a huge drawback because, I'm using a lot of lenses that aren't native Panasonic because they're cheaper or they have, different features like faster apertures or different focal lengths or whatever it is that Panasonic isn't currently offering. And I'm really not a fan of buying the native lenses for the camera format because the camera is only temporary. The lenses are what you're going to get the longer life out of. So if you invest in a set of like Nikon lenses, you can use those on pretty much any camera. If you invest in Panasonic lenses, well, you're kind of shoehorning yourself into only shooting on Panasonic bodies. And I just think that's not very smart to do. So with the A7R II from Sony, the fact that it's got internal stabilization means I can put a Nikon lens on there and boom, I've got stabilization. I can put a Canon lens on there. I can put whatever I want on there and have internal stabilization, which is huge. A lot of the time, if you're doing run and gun, documentary type stuff, handheld work, that stabilization can be a lifesaver, and you don't have to necessarily have some kind of really advanced rig. You can just kind of throw it up on a set of rails and have it be pretty good, for all intents and purposes. The downside, maybe it's not a downside, I don't know what you want to call it, but with the Sony A7R II, the price point, it's starting out at $3,200, which is a little bit high for my taste. That's not to say that it's expensive. It's not expensive by any means. I mean, what you're getting is looks like to be a very solid camera, and I know there's a lot of people who can afford that, and it's nothing to bat an eye at. But when you kind of look at the other stuff like the Samsung NX1, even the A7S to a certain extent, the GH4, those other cameras are coming in about half of that $3,200. So again, you're getting full frame here. You're getting a 42 megapixel sensor. Let's hope that it does really good in low light. 5-axis internal stabilization, internal 4K. You're getting a lot of features. So I'm not really hung up too much on the price. But as always, it's always kind of nicer to have more affordable things so you can invest in other cool camera gear. So the $3,200 price point, I'm not in love with it, but I don't hate it either. I think it's probably pretty reasonable given the features that this camera has compared to other cameras that aren't even coming close, especially some of the stuff from Canon and Nikon, which apparently they don't care about us video people, and they're just content to just keep selling photography cameras. All right, that's fine. Well, watch your business die. Anyways, back to the Sony. The thing I don't like about the A7 series, and I really wish Sony would, I don't know, maybe they want to make an A9 series. Do they have an A9? They probably do. If they had made a new body style, that's what I'd really like to see. All these features would be great if they were in a camera that was a little bit more ergonomic, something that was a little bit chunkier. Having shot with the A7S on a couple different shoots, I don't like how small and toy-like that camera is. It's hard to hold, and I totally get why a photographer who's looking at this, who's looking, 42 megapixels? Yeah, sign me up, would hold it in his or her hand and be like, oh, I don't like how this feels, because they don't feel good. Like when you hold a 5D Mark III or a D800 or even the GH4 for that matter, it feels like a camera it's solid, it's in place, it's not going anywhere. And these A7 cameras from Sony they're like pocket cams, but it doesn't make any sense because you can't put a pocket-sized lens on them. They're full-frame cameras. So what full-frame lens are you going to be putting in your pocket? You're not. So I don't know why they're so tied to making the tiniest camera they can. Maybe it's for drone photography and videography, but make some side action camera, full-frame, hybrid thing off on the side. But make your photography camera and your video camera, the hybrid thing, make that something that people actually want to hold on to, because even if you're going to rig it all up, oftentimes that's only for video. On the photography side, where you'd care about the 42 megapixels, you want to hold it in your hand. And I get, keep it lightweight. That's not what I'm complaining about. I really like the weight of the GH4 compared to the heavier, 5D, 7D, D800. The stuff from Canon and Nikon is heavy. There's no doubt about that. After a while around your neck, it gets a little exhausting. But I mean, let's be fair though. These cameras aren't that much weight. But hey, let's keep the weight down. Okay, but make the shape and the ergonomics of the camera something that you can actually hold on to. And to go right along with that, I'd also like to see a better battery life. I don't know if the A7R II is going to have the same battery life as the A7S, but it's got the same form factor, and I'm guessing it uses the same batteries. And if they are the same batteries, if they haven't done anything to improve the battery performance on the camera side, you're going to be frustrated. With the A7S, I was so frustrated with how bad the batteries were. Not that they're bad batteries, but they just didn't last very long at all. You get one battery would last maybe an hour, which that's not fun. Almost every shoot that I'm doing, or every shoot you're probably going to do, is going longer than an hour. You're probably looking at a full day. And if that's the case, swapping batteries 6, 7, 8 times during the day is not what you want to be worried about. I'm kind of frustrated when I have to swap batteries once, let alone 8 times a day. So, like I said, I don't know if that's going to be a big downfall of the A7R II, but I'm kind of guessing that it will be. And you can work around the ergonomics. So again, if those features are what you're looking for and that price sounds good, this camera is probably worth buying. I can't directly endorse it because I haven't shot with it. I don't know what the footage looks like. But on paper, this is looking like a really solid camera and definitely something that's going to drive competition in the marketplace. And hopefully it pushes Panasonic to do some stuff, pushes Canon to do some stuff, Nikon, Blackmagic, even GoPro. I don't know. I want these camera companies all competing with each other. And I'm really glad to see that Sony's actually doing it. They get a lot of points in my book for the stuff that they're doing with the A7S and now with the A7R II. I mean, internal 4K kind of makes sense. They kind of had to do it. So I'm really hoping to see that on the A7S too. I'm really hoping to see that 4K added internally because that was my big hang up with the A7S. I had to do it externally. And with the 5-axis internal stabilization, like this camera should be amazing. We'll see how it turns out. But right now it's looking pretty dang good.